All right, well, everybody, uh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to those that are here. Um, Thank you for our community for coming here and attending, and anybody else who just saw this in our socials. Appreciate your attendance here. So I am Matthew Stith. I am the community and industry outreach person here at Spamhaus. And I'm also joined by our illustrious Roman, who is the founder of abuse.ch. And today we are going to be looking at some of the improvements that have been made to the abuse.ch platform over the last few weeks. And also, Roman is going to be doing a demo of our hunting platform that has been developed for the abuse.ch community. And we appreciate all of the feedback and things that we've gotten so far for the hunting platform. It's been a little under a week since we put that thing out, and we've already been able to make some improvements. And it's looking to be something excellent and something that people are very excited to use. And with that, I'm going to go over and push it over to Roman. But one other thing is while you're in here, if questions come up, please put them in the chat, and we will try and answer as many as we can as we go through this demo. Thank you. Off to you, Roman.
Thanks, Stith. So yeah, me again. I at another live stream, I wouldn't have imagined that it would be so fast that I will be at another live stream. But you may have seen on our socials that we launched a new platform and some new cool features, and we are going to put them in a blog post. But we thought that it might be also a good opportunity to show them to you and their benefits in a live demo. So the goal today is, I promise we don't have slides, so we don't have anything. We will just show you the new features, the new, hopefully cool features that will make your life a little bit easier. And of course, the new abuse.ch platform. As this already mentioned, if you have questions, go ahead and put them into the chat, and we will hopefully be able to answer all of them. I will quickly start sharing my screen. I hope it works. Yes, that looks good. So before coming to the hunting platform, I would like to quickly introduce it to a few new features we have implemented on various platforms, and I would like to start with URLhaus. So for those of you who are using URLhaus, it's the place where you can share malware distribution sites and of course also leverage the data for your daily hunting operations, or also to protect your network. What we have implemented here, if you haven't seen it yet, the feature is live for quite a while, is we have one thing that is called payload. So usually when you browse the URLhaus platform, you are probably used to see the most recent URLs. As it is about malware payloads that we collect also through these malware delivery URLs, you now have here a new tab called payloads. And this will show you the recent payloads observed and fetched by URLhaus. So for those of you who don't know, URLhaus will try to pull down or check the payload of these sites, of these 3 million sites tracked by URLhaus frequently, roughly once per hour. And we will try to check whether there is a new payload available. And what you see here on the payloads tab is actually, as I said, the most recent payloads that have been observed. And we also try to identify file type. Of course, you will also see a reference to MalwareBazaar. So in some occasions, we automatically push the observed payload to MalwareBazaar automatically. And we will also try to identify the malware payload, what kind of malware family is associated with that. So you see some examples here. That's the recent payload. We actually also have this available on each URL. So I'm going to show you one example here. That's another URL, apparently spreading form book. And if you go to the IP address here, you see the URLs that have been observed on this particular host. And what is new, that's the payload tab here. So the payload tab is now also available here on the host entry page. And if you toggle to this screen, you see all payloads observed on this particular host. So in this particular case, we have observed phonebook and REMCOS read apparently mostly on these payloads, on this malware distribution side. And some hosts, as you may know, they change payload quite often. And by that, with this new tab, you can keep informed about new payloads being observed. Of course, this feature is always also already available through the API. So we have an API endpoint where you can query URLhaus for recent payloads, and then you get the full data sets. Speaking about hunting, that brings me to the next feature. You may have seen it here. It's called hunting alerts. So you already know this feature maybe from other platforms. We also have that on, now I need to think, I think it's MalwareBazaar and YARAify. So this allows you to get immediately notified if an entry enters the database that matches a certain pattern. And how this looks like, I would like to quickly show you. So to use this function, you need to be authenticated, and you can easily do that with login. And if you log in, you need to authenticate with one of your social accounts. And you see on your avatar here that you are authenticated. And then you can actually access this new page. What is pretty cool here is it, of course, automatically takes the email address from your abuse.ch profile that you use for authentication. And you can now alert on several things. And that's something, in my opinion, pretty cool. You can get alerted on a URL pattern. This is not a regular expression. It's basically a simple wildcard match. So you see one of the examples here, $%.nn. That's a particular, for example, URL pattern that you can use. This would trigger for all URLs that end with .nn. You can try do the same, for example, with .exe, of course, if you want executables, or you can also have more complex URL paths like .com something /something/something. We then hunt for you on URLhaus for new submissions. So this means if someone submits a new URL to URLhaus and it goes through our vetting process and it enters the database, you will get an email automatically telling you that there is a hit on your search pattern. What you can also hunt for is you can hunt for a tag. So you may have used that before. So for example, here you have all the different tags, and you can now use them actually to create a notification. And this is one tag. So if you have multiple tags you want to get alerted, you need to add multiple hunting rules. And what we also have is an exact match on the signature. You have seen that before. So if you go back here and you go back to the payload, so that's the signature. For example, if you want to get notified about any asynchronous or stealthy payload that gets collected or scraped by URLhaus, you can easily do this here. What we have also implemented is payload change. And what payload change, what you need here is the unique ID of the URLhaus entry. I give you an example. So if you open a URL here, let's go for this Gorilla one, and you want to get notified when the payload changes on this particular URL, you simply just need to take the ID, go to hunting alerts, and ask to get notified when the payload changes. And if you put save, you will automatically get an email when a new payload has been observed on that particular URL. If you want to manage your existing hunting rules, again, you can just go here and you see the hunting rules that are in place. So I have a few here for testing purpose. And you also see the status that they are actively active and hence hunting. And you see the amount of hits that a search term or a particular hunting rule actually triggered. And you can easily delete them here. So if you're not interested in receiving one, you can just say, okay, delete, and then it's deleted and it's gone again. What we also have is another cool feature. If you, let's open a URL here, you may have observed that there is a new function called rescan. And what rescan is actually doing, I can show it to you here. What rescan actually is doing is, what a big surprise, you can trigger a rescan of that URL. And rescan means that you will instruct URLhaus to fetch the payload again, and actually subsequently to check whether the payload is still there or whether it has changed. So you have this feature available if you are authenticated. And it's pretty easy. You push it, you wait a few seconds, and then hopefully we'll have a result. This depends a little bit on the speed of the remote server, and of course we use a large proxy network to make sure that our requests are not being blocked. So in this particular case, the rescan has been conducted and the new URLhaus status is online. So this malware payload delivery side is actually still active. So these are the new cool features we have on URLhaus. I would like to move on to YARAify, where we have also introduced some cool features. There are actually only 2 new features, but I think they're quite cool. YARAify, for those who are not familiar with YARAify, it's the scan engine that you can use to scan files with crowdsourced YARA rules, but also with your own YARA rules. And what we have added here is 2 things. First of all, if you go to YARAscan and you want to submit a file for scanning, these were the scan options we already had for quite a while. What is new is you can now ask YARAify to delete the file automatically after 7 days. That brings 2 benefits. The first benefit for us is less disk space we need to use. We have a lot of disk space our platform use. And the second thing is the right to forget, right? So if you have something that might be a little bit more juicy and you want to scan, you can, of course, as always, disable the option that this sample is being shared. Then that sample is shared with nobody. Nobody can download it, and you can activate delete this file after scan, and then after 7 days, this file will automatically be deleted. What is not being deleted, that's the scan results. So the metadata about the file, like file size, file type, file hashes, and also the scan results, they will always be available, but not the file. Another cool feature we have here is if you if you hunt for something and you are browsing a particular file, so let's open this one. You as usual see the task results, the most recent task results. Maybe you have uploaded, meanwhile, your own YARA rule for hunting, and you want to trigger a file rescan. So far, the file rescan was only possible through by uploading the file again. That means that you need to add a copy of the file, and that was a little bit a hassle, to be honest. So you may already spotted it, but there is also a rescan button here. So if you push that, what you will do is we will immediately scan, queue the file for scanning, and you see the results are already here, and a new file scan is being conducted, and you have the most recent results about this particular file. So that's a cool thing, specifically if you want to upload your own YARA rules to our platform and you want to play whether a certain file hits now your YARA rule, you can easily do that by the rescan function. This function is now also available through the API. So for those of you who don't know, YARAify, we have sample scripts available on our public GitHub repository. The code is pretty dirty, but it works. That's the most important thing. And we have a new sample here, a new Python script that's called YARAify rescan. And this one you can use to trigger a rescan without having the file. So that means you can query, for example, with the YARAify lookup, you can query a file and say, okay, I want to trigger rescan, and you can do that easily through the API. Also, something that is available now is, you see it here, you can upload now a YARA rule. so far you had to do that through your profile. What you now can do is you can do that through the API as well. So that's easier now, specifically if you have a bunch of YARA rules you want to deploy and you don't want to go through the UI, you can do this with through the API as well. It's documented on the API documentation, and there is a sample script available here. That's about YARAify. So let's move on to MalwareBazaar. On MalwareBazaar, we have only one new feature, but it's, in my opinion, a cool one as well. If you browse the files here, you may have seen that we automatically push bash files, Linux bash files, so shell scripts and ELF files to MalwareBazaar. And that's pretty cool what we do here. If you report a shell script, a bash script to URLhaus, it will automatically be sent to MalwareBazaar. And what MalwareBazaar will try to do is it will try to scrape the bash file, export any payload URLs that might be in it. That's usually very handy when it comes to Mirai or other Linux-based malware families. And we will also automatically link back to URLhaus. So we will then extract these URLs, submit them to URLhaus, and they are then available there with the most recent file hash and, of course, signature and tags. So this information you see here, that all comes from URLhaus. And if you click here, you will automatically get redirected to the URLhaus entry. That's very handy, as said, if you are hunting for Linux-based malware families that are abusing or using bash scripts. Then I would like to go to ThreatFox. On ThreatFox, we also have a new cool feature that you may have already seen. So if you browse IOCs here, and you open one of the IOCs, let's say I need to pick one. Let's get this one. You may have seen that we now have the ASN related to this IOC here. And what we do is for IP addresses, it's obvious, we try to map it to an ASN. If you report a domain or a URL as an IOC to ThreatFox, we will try to extract the host name and do a DNS lookup, and then do a lookup who is announcing that particular URL IP address, and hence who is responsible for that particular IOC. And what we have here then is you can click even on that, and you then see a very short, a very brief overview on that ASN. So we have observed 3,000 IOCs associated with this one. Important here to say is these are just IOCs. So that means they are not confirmed. They have different level of different confidence level. And that doesn't necessarily mean that all 3,000 IOCs are true positives. It's just an indicator, and it's not 100% malicious, for example. So, but what we can say is we see over time the indicators of compromise shared related to this ASN and the top malware families. So in this particular case, a lot of the malware, the IOCs reported were related to QBots. If we browse to a different ASN, we see that's quite coincident, another German one that actually hosts the significant amount of the IOCs shared were related to Asyncrat. And then I have another example. Let me quickly show it to you. Another German one, sorry. That's really coincident. And you see here, it's a mix between Redline Stealer, Cobalt Strike, and Kim Suki. So that's a new cool feature available. And of course, you see all the recent indicators connected or related to that particular ASN here, and you can easily browse it. So that's for ThreatFox. Now, the last few minutes I would like to use for the new hunting platform. I'm not sure who of you has already used that. I was a little bit astonished how many users we had using it actually. Within the first few days, we had hundreds of users registering and using the platform, so that's pretty cool. And of course, also a big motivation that people are using our platform. So the idea of hunting is, as you may have read on social media, is so far when you were searching for something on our platform, it was a little bit of a hassle. You had to go to each platform and use the search functionality, and of course the syntax was different from each platform, which I must admit doesn't make everything easier. So we tried to break that and make the life of threat hunters and security researchers easier by having, like, let's call it the abuse.ch search engine, where you can query almost all abuse.ch platforms from one place. And you can do that for an IP address, a domain name, a URL, or a file hash. And before I show you this, I also quickly want to introduce you here to the false positive list. So this is something that has been asked a few times. When something gets reported to one of our platform, you always have the possibility to report an entry as a false positive. So those of you who don't know, if you go here, you always have the action tab with report a false positive, and you have that actually on all platforms. And if you do that, we will review it, or the initial submitter will review it, and then come to a conclusion, hopefully, whether it's a false positive or not. And we'll then remove that entry from the database. So far, so good. However, we want to ensure that, of course, the false positive gets also purged, for example, from your CM. If you integrate data from abuse.ch platforms, for example, in your malware information sharing platform, in your MISP, you probably will not get notified that there has been a change in the data set and that an entry is not valid anymore. And we try to change that by offering you the false positive list. So that's a false positive list across all platforms. And across all platforms, that means URLhaus, ThreatFox, and MalwareBazaar. You can easily search here for a recent false positive, and you can, of course, also obtain this data through an API. So when you log in with your abuse.ch profile on auth.abuse.ch, then you can generate an API key, and that API key you can use for our platforms, and of course also to fetch the false positive list. Currently, it is available in two formats, that's a CSV and a JSON. And the data usually shows the platform affected, the entry, and whether it has been removed by the user, by the submitter of the initial data, or by the administrator, or along with a removal notes why it has been removed. So that's the false positive list. Now to the hunting functionality. If you haven't played with it yet, go ahead and play with it. You can hunt for an IP address, and what we then do is we query all data sets. And that means it will take a moment, because we don't have one platform, we have different platforms, a different data center. That doesn't make it necessarily easier, and the querying will take a while. You here see in the tabs in the navigation summary, so that's the summary of your query. So in this case, this IP address was matched one indicator of compromise on ThreatFox. We had 3 results in SendNet and 41 results in the IP fingerprinting service. And you see them here, 1 result in ThreatFox. So apparently that one was or is Remco threat botnet controller. And the cool thing is you can immediately here go to the corresponding entry. Then we have SendNet. So SendNet is not public platform that we operate. It basically detonates malware. We have decided to expose some of the data we have there to our hunting platform. So if you query an IP address, you will see whether we have observed that IP address, and when for the first time, how many DNS resolutions we have observed during malware execution, whether we have observed an SSL certificate, whether we have seen IDS alerts, and how many malware samples we have observed trying to connect it to that particular IP address. And if you go a little bit more down, you see the malware samples, the MD5 hash corresponding to that connection. So apparently there were 2 ports used by 3 different malware samples that all got identified by Remcostrat. Then we have DNS resolutions. So these are the DNS resolutions that we have observed associated with that IP address together with the file hashes, and we also have IDS alerts. In this case, it appears that this particular IP address is a pretty bad one because the network is listed on Spamhaus drop. Then we have IP Intel. That's another non-public tool that we have. It basically tries to fingerprint IP addresses. So you see ports that are common ports that are open. We also try to generate the charm hash, for example, collect SSL certificates and some other things. So this may also help you in your investigations. I have another example I would like to show you here. So if we trigger a scan of this particular IP address, let's see what comes out. Yeah, we have again 2 results in ThreatFox, 1 in SANTnet and 3 in our IP fingerprinting service. So that was apparently, that is an interesting one. It was first, it had actually 2 malware botnet controllers hosted. Then you see, again, we had a hit in our sandbox. And in this case, you also see the SSL certificate connected to that IP address port combination. And again, of course, the IP Intel data. If you query the dataset for a file hash, it will look a little bit different. So we, of course, also query URLhaus, whether URLhaus has observed this particular file hash. And yes, it has. You see the payload information about this particular payload. And again, you can simply jump to the corresponding entry at URLhaus. You also see results from YARAify. So we had claim AB hits on that particular file and some YARA matches, and you can again from here easily go to the result page. So here we had apparently a YARA rule that flagged this file as SOX5 system set. And of course, again, you see results from SANTnet. So this particular malware sample has tried to connect to different hosts through HTTPS apparently, and we had 5 IDS alerts. Now, another 2 things I would like to show you. First of all, if you search for an indicator that is known to us, but it has been reported as a false positive, and we flagged it as a false positive, that data is also being showed here. Of course, that information is no longer present in, for example, the MalwareBazaar database, but you immediately see that it was actually listed once on MalwareBazaar, and it got removed by the user for unknown reason. That user did not show why he thinks this is a false positive. You can also search for a URL. That's the last example I would like to show you. So if you search for a URL, that's particularly handy if you want to check URLhaus. So in this case, we had the match here for that particular URL. The status is still online, and it's apparently spreading a system BC payload. So that's very roughly about the new features and the new hunting platform. Now, the question to you guys is, do you have any questions, feature requests, or even bug reports? I hope not. I fixed some in the past days. Yeah, so the floor is open for questions.
So Roman, excellent, awesome, as always. Like, this is just, exactly, something that has been requested, something that's been needed for our community and for anybody who just needs to figure out what is bad out there and see if they can submit things to us and get some correlations. But one question that was asked, and I believe this was during the ThreatFox part, was can we get a list of the bad ASNs pulled on tag or malware family?
Currently not. So what we have is, if you go to URLhaus, we have here a statistics about the top ASNs. However, this doesn't necessarily reflect whether reflect if an ASN is bad, because just because a ASN is hosting, for example, a lot of malware, it doesn't mean that they are bad. If they react on abuse reports, then that's a good sign. And if you are, of course, a large hoster, it is common that, sadly common that many of your WordPress customers or Typo3 customers or Joomla customers, whatever, get hacked and spread malware. What is more important to know is, so we have statistics here about those ASNs who host active malware distribution sites, and we also reference the Spamhaus drop list. So that's a do not root or peel list that's available for free. So you can go to their website, and we actually leverage that public data for an indicator whether a network is bad or not. So short answer is we rely on third-party data, and there is no easy way to access that data through the abuse.ch platforms.
All right. And so this is a question that was asked offline earlier in the week, but is there, or why isn't there, like with the hunting platform, there's, some API functionality, but there isn't for the entire hunting platform. Why is that? Just
Yeah, so you may have noticed that we have cool features here on the hunting platform, but the only endpoint available on the API is to get the false positive list. And the reason for that is that currently the platforms, they are not scalable and robust enough to actually expose the hunting functionality on the API. Because if you conduct a search query through the UI, it's a manual thing. But if you can hammer an API with hundreds of requests, we need a little bit more robust infrastructure, and we want to be prepared for that. So what we are trying to do is, of course, coming up with an API, but this needs some changes on our side, and we will very likely partner with Spamhaus with that regards and make this API then available through Spamhaus through their platforms. And if you, of course, want to have early access to an API once it will be there as a beta tester, for example, feel free to reach out and we can put you on the beta tester list.
Yeah, and that'll definitely be something that we will make sure that we introduce to the our top contributors as and when that is available. And also let's see, there's another one here that came off. The rate limiting on API queries through abuse.ch. Just some feedback on that. I know that it's probably has a little bit to do with infrastructure and whatnot, but do you have any more details on that?
Yeah, so as you may have read on our socials, we will implement mandatory authentication across all APIs. The reason for that is, sadly, there are many or some organizations abusing the APIs in a way that they are just overloading it with millions of queries. You cannot easily block those or rate limit those, let's call it offenders, without authentication. So long story short, yes, there will be rate limiting, but only if you do not authenticate. So if you authenticate with the auth key that you can obtain for free through your abuse.ch profile, there will be no rate limiting implemented unless you really hit it hard. Then we have to rate limit it, but there are no like predefined limits with regards to authenticated users at the moment.
Yeah. And also, one thing about the hunting platform, that is something that you also have to sign up and authenticate for to be able to utilize that. It's just a login screen if you go to hunting.abuse.ch right now. But once you authenticate, you're able to get in and be able to play around with it. And the additional things is we definitely would love more feedback from you. I know that this is just getting a demo. We're like, ask us questions now. Go and play with it. The contributors on our Slack channel, please reach us in there. We're also available on social media. We're there on LinkedIn. We're on Mastodon. We're on Blue Sky. We're on X as well. But we definitely would love to have feedback so we can properly guide things and serve the community as best as possible. And that's also part of what I'm doing, working alongside Roman here, because as much as Roman is capable of all sorts of amazing things, he does have to sleep at least 15 minutes a day. So during those 15
It's
minutes,
more. It's more.
yeah. But just want to let you guys know that we definitely appreciate any feedback that you do have, and encourage you to go and play with the platform. Um, Try not to break it. If you do break it, let us know. And if some weirdness is happening, we'd also appreciate that as well. Uh, and yeah, Roman, would you like to add anything on additional before we wrap up?
No, not from my side. I think that's all.
Okay.
We are
All
in
right. Well,
time.
one thing that I am going to do real fast is I'm going to just link my LinkedIn profile into the chat so people have it. Uh, but yeah, just please, if you'd like to, you can send me a message directly. Um, you know, no weird questions about things outside of Spamhaus, but or abuse.ch. But I'm there to answer things for the community. And again, everybody, thank you so much for attending today. We appreciate it. This recording is going to be live right after this recording ends. And yes, appreciate the time today, everybody. So thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a nice day.